Start your own fucking podcast. I did it, and I'm half retarded. The whole point of this episode was to do like node privacy and to kind of like take the angle of why it's important to run your own node, what privacy benefits you get specifically from running a dojo as opposed to other node implementations, just kind of stuff like that, and really see where the conversation goes. I mean, not anything too crazy or too deep, because most of my listeners are left side of the bell curve. So
okay, easy, all for it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, why don't we start off with you like telling people what you do?
Cool. Hey, yeah. So I'm a BTCX Zelko on Telegram. Zelko for people that I'm friends with, and yeah. So I'm one of the co-founders of Ronin Dojo, and it's a full node implementation. One of the plug and play solutions to get people to be running their own full node and backing up to use that to power their Bitcoin wallets. And I've been working on that for about 3 years now, and had no software or coding experience whatsoever, and just been learning as I go. And thankfully, we attracted a lot of good false developers who joined the team, and we thank God we released our first product, so we don't have to bend the knee to any VC ventures or anything like that. We can fund ourselves and kind of run the project the way we want to instead of the way other people want to. And yeah, so I'm just excited to be here, and thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm in the process of getting a dojo together myself. I've been running a Raspy Blitz for, I don't know, probably like not quite a year.
Yeah, I like Raspberry Blitz. I ran it way back, like probably right when I first started working on Ronin, because I had like a mission of trying to implement Dojo, the Samurai backend server for Samurai Wallet, and I was trying to get that on like every node implementation I could. So like I got it working on my node. Nodal already had it, and then I started to work with the Raspberry Blitz guys for a little bit, and they don't use Docker, so we kind of diverted paths on that one. But Raspberry Blitz guys they're false guys. We don't have the same path and the same focus, but I like that they're focused. I like that they're false guys through and through, and I at least respect that. So it's pretty cool.
I like that they're anti-Docker.
I love Docker. I think there's a lot of power to it, but it's funny. It's just like some people are like super pro, and some people are super anti-Docker. Like Keto Miner with Nodal is like beyond anti-Docker. It's like it is what it is, but everyone has their own preferences. As long as it works for the users, man, like that's really what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've talked about it a couple of times, but I've been working on forking a Linux project with a friend of mine, and it's hard to. I really admire what you guys have done with Dojo, because it's really difficult to create a project that is privacy focused, user friendly. It's like not an easy task, right? We've been trying to fork a Linux implementation that's Gentoo based, and it's just it's such a struggle bus.
Yeah, that's a whole another beast. But yeah, no, it's definitely got its it definitely has its pros and cons. I guess it has some struggles, but the beauty of a lot of the community that that we serve, as far as our Ronin Dojo users, is that people are running a Ronin Dojo because they care about privacy. So, and then most of them are Samurai Wallet users, which means that they care about privacy. So we get a lot of people that, that's their passion. And so, we get people who contribute all the time or offer solutions and suggestions and drop issue requests and stuff. And so it definitely helps a lot, especially if you don't, you're not super privy on it. Um, and yeah, so like that's been a huge help. But it's the biggest trade-off with privacy focused anything is that 90% of the time it runs through Tor, which Tor is an amazing tool, but it does have its limitations. Like there's always going to be some sort of UX and user experience issues with a privacy trade-off. Like you don't get privacy with like perfect privacy and security do not go with UI and UX. So um, you have to make some trade-offs, but I think that with that being our main focus and not having to implement Lightning, um, and we can like focus on chain, it's really helped us to be able to like zero in on privacy and security. So that's been a really cool new function.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think the goal is really to make it as user friendly as possible while still maintaining, the ethos and the ethics really that you hold yourself to. You can't compromise that stuff because a GUI is pretty, or you can't compromise that stuff because it's more convenient to just be able to do, a one click thing. Unfortunately, you know, you said what you said about privacy, but like, privacy and um, convenience, people usually give way to convenience. So it's nice to have something like what you guys implement that's really user friendly, um, and can kind of bring people in who aren't necessarily super privacy focused. I know when I started running Raspberry Blitz, I ran Raspberry Blitz because of their view on things. But I had, like you said, I had zero coding experience. I had zero computer experience. So, Raspberry Blitz is like, it's a big leap from somebody who's, coming out of running apps off of like an app store and everything being so like user centered. And, it takes some getting used to.
Yeah, I mean that's anybody that has to go into terminal right away, and that was kind of um, the biggest difference I felt like, and felt like a roadblock for a long time since my node really took the lead on the GUI first, having that nice like web interface, um, and obviously like Umbrel came along and they did their thing, but it was it was such an important thing for us. I felt like to start with that terminal experience, and a lot of our menus and the way that our backend, like our CLI works, is inspired by Raspberry Blitz. Like the menu options and just making things happen really easily. A lot of that's just inspired straight from them, and so that's why I was giving them kudos and like open arms. Like I used to always just like look at his like guides whenever something new would come up, and so when we were starting to like make all that stuff, it was like we had a lot of people who would like reach out on Telegram and like, I've never used terminal before and I don't know how to run these commands. And it was just like, it was nice for me because I can relate, just like you can. Like I can relate to those people. I had to learn the hard way for a very long time how to use the command line and how to use terminal. And after bashing my head on the freaking keyboard for a long enough time, yeah, I just eventually I started to pick some things up. But I'm a I'm like a self-induced, self pain inflicted learner, so I have to learn the hard way. But yeah, I mean, going into the terminal and kind of getting rid of that fear, I think is huge. Having a nice web interface is with a privacy focus is a huge step, and I think that helps onboard and take the fear away from a lot of new users. I still always want people to like jump into the terminal and like not be afraid to use it. Like, it's always my first thing to tell people, like, oh, go into the terminal and do this, rather than trying to do it from the UI. But yeah, I think when people get over that fear, it's like a huge like learning experience, and you just see people who they're like, I had never done this before, and now I'm I feel way better and I can do so much more stuff, and I'm trying to learn different languages and whatever, and we appreciate what you guys did, and it's a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah, it's not only that. I mean, the first time you do something in terminal and it works, like I remember the first thing I ever did in terminal, uh I had just put Ubuntu. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that on on a Dell laptop that I had, and like I used it to SSH into my Raspberry Blitz, and I must have fucked it up 15 times. And then I finally like typed it in just right, and I hit the button and it worked. And you instantly feel like the hackers in the movies. It just like happens, and you're like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, you're the Pepe hacker meme, just going through the matrix.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
man, like I remember having that exact moment. So when for me it was like I kind of learned like the terminal stuff because I was one of those guys that like followed copy and paste guides from like how to install. Like I installed Lightning like when it was like, what was it, hashtag reckless or whatever the fuck it was, like when it first started, and like when people would not let you go on mainnet. And like I remember like getting like I remember my like aha, and I felt like Hacker Man was um S2L1. My other co-founder, he was like, oh, let's automate stuff. I was like, dude, I don't know how to automate things. Like I know how to like copy it and paste a command, and like I know the commands I need to run, but that's all I know. And he's like, dude, just turn it into scripts. And he like just showed me, like he sent me like Stack Exchange and shit. And I was like, okay. So when I first got a script to work, I was like, oh my God, I made a script work. This is amazing, and it was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And yeah, that was a pretty big moment. I felt like
Yeah, I had
it's
that
cool.
same experience with the first script that I ever put together was like this cheesy little script that works in terminal when you're decrypting a PGP message.
Mhm.
You like type it in and then you hit enter and it looks like the Matrix, and then it like shows up right on the in the terminal window, and I was like, hell yeah.
That's sick. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's such a cool feeling, and that's the thing that I want from users. Like I want users to get that. And a lot of them do. Like a lot of them who come from zero, like never going into terminal, and then they do it and they're like, oh my God, I'm like, I can't believe I can do this. This is way easier than I thought. And I'm like, yeah, like you got it. Like you just gotta start learning how stuff works. The next thing you know, you're 3 years later, you're gonna start writing your own code and developing your own stuff. So
Yeah,
it's a cool journey, man, for sure.
it is. And it's, a lot of people don't understand why I'm like pretty public about the fact that I don't like a lot of the OSs that people talk about um, on like Twitter and shit. People talk about Pop OS and Ubuntu, and when you start messing around in terminal and you start like start uh writing scripts and like making things work, and you're like, these fucking systems are not built for this. These systems are for people to like click and play.
Hmm.
They're built to like open the box, don't fuck with anything on the back end, and just do what's available to you, or go to their packages and pull something off of their packages.
Yeah.
But you start messing around, you start doing your own stuff, you're like, all right, I need a system that's like more free. I need somewhere where I can like I can mess around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like developing your own OS, and like I know exactly why you're in Gentoo, but um yeah, it's I mean that's a whole nother journey. That's a really big leap for I think a lot of people. And but like it's a good experience. It's like a leap from like people that go from Microsoft. I think it's a journey just like anything else, right? Like you start with like Windows and or Mac, and you're like, okay, like what's this Linux thing everyone's talking about? And you use Ubuntu because you see everyone talk about it. And then you're like, oh, cool. All right. Maybe Pop OS. And then you maybe get into like Fedora or whatever. Or maybe you go to Arc. And then, I think that's when people really start like opening their eyes and start like learning a lot of different stuff. Gen 2 Gen 2 is for nerds, but you do. Yeah, Gen 2 is for nerds. I stand by that. Um, but it's definitely the most programmable. It's hands down one of the most programmable. Like, you control what you do. OSs, and you definitely need to have a good understanding of how the Linux operating system works. So that's like a huge piece, and I gotta give you props because that's a lot.
It's been an event to try to figure out. Like I said, it's an event to figure out how to bring something that's so builder friendly and so friendly when you want to start messing around internally, you want to start building. It's a really friendly environment to do that in, but to take something that can do that and make it out of the box usable, for the average person has been an experience.
Yeah, that's why no one uses Gen 2, but
I like WoW uses Gen 2.
I know. I know exactly why you're doing it, but it's one person doesn't count. No, I'm just kidding. It's definitely has its pros and cons, but yeah, that's a really awesome journey, and hopefully more people start to experiment, because that's really, you just got to take a leap and start trying to learn, and next thing you know, you're doing some crazy shit like making your own OS.
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky. I met a guy doing memes on Twitter, and it just so happened that he's been into like the cypherpunk movement and stuff for a really long time, and he just volunteered to spend 50 hours teaching me terminal and how to code bash. And it's been, anytime you're presented with an opportunity like that, with anything really in life, you're presented with an opportunity from somebody who is very experienced in a particular thing you want to learn, and they offer an opportunity to learn about it for free. All you have to do is set aside the time to learn. I think you're kind of foolish if you don't set the time aside to take advantage of something like that,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like that's exactly how I learned all the stuff that I did. I'll never forget messaging people. There's some dude named Nicholas on Telegram, and the Samurai Chats was just he was my go-to, and I was really scared to bother people in the public chat, and so I was messaging him, and he was holding I was holding his pocket, and he was just come here little guy, I'll show you. And he just kept pasting commands, and I just kept doing them. And if you don't give those kind of people their time, if they're giving you their time, you might as well give them your time, because if you want something to work and you want to figure stuff out, you're never going to be the smartest person in the room, no matter who you are. You're not. And there's always something that you can learn from somebody. So having that, I've seen guys who are super talented developers, and you just got to be humble and be able to learn from anybody on both sides, because there's 100 ways to do anything in computer programming. So trying to figure it out is best to just listen to people and try to pick their brains. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the same as privacy, right? It's the same with anything. They're all little rabbit holes, right? And the Linux thing has been a rabbit hole for me, and the more I learn, the more I want to learn. The more I get into it, the more I want to be able to the less I have to message somebody and ask questions, the better I feel about myself. And it's the same thing you go through with Bitcoin, right? You start buying Bitcoin, you get your Bitcoin on an exchange, everything's great. And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have my Bitcoin on an exchange. Cool. And you move it to self-custody, and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then it's like, oh, well, how do I verify my own transactions? And you start moving
Yeah.
into running your own node and all, it's every little thing you do, completes that picture a little bit more, and you're a little bit more independent of relying on something else on the end of another system to make sure your stuff goes through. It's freedom money, and you want to be able to do peer-to-peer transactions. Well, a lot of people harp that, and a lot of people use it as they use it to farm engagement, but it it takes some work to be able to use Bitcoin the way Bitcoin was intended to be used.
100%. I mean, like that's like one of the funniest things that I think of, like, especially after the Citadel dispatch with the KYC stuff. And it's like, man, like we have strayed a lot, since even when I was when I started in 2016, like late 2015. And it's like, and because I went through that same journey, like I didn't even decide to run a node until, I mean, like I had like a Bitcoin core node running on a laptop that I thought was doing something, but of course it wasn't, because I didn't have it connected to anything, and I wasn't like helping like broadcast anything. So, I wasn't doing anything. I just thought I was. And but like I decided to try to install Dojo because Whirlpool CLI came out, and everyone, as soon as Dojo 1.0 came out, everyone was like, you gotta run Dojo and start a new wallet, move your funds and do whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that. They're like, yeah, you do that and you're gonna be like totally like independent and be able to, like, you're gonna be totally sovereign. And like, it's like, holy shit, I gotta do that. But when people start to mistaken how Bitcoin was supposed to work, right? Like a pseudonymous, like peer-to-peer digital cash. You can't do that if you're one hop away from the exchange. It's like, oh, well, like self custody. And it's like, all right, like self custody is great, right? Like, but self custody, like the whole movement for self custody was entirely because exchanges were getting hacked. Like Mount Gox was a thing. Most of these like people in the last, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, probably have no idea what Mount Gox was about. Um, and like with those kind of big events happening and exchanges getting shut down, people losing Bitcoin, like self custody was a big movement, was a big push. And I obviously, like, you should be holding your own keys. Like that is part of what Bitcoin was about. That's like one of the biggest pieces, right? Like it's your money. Um, and then it goes, from there, it's like, hey, you need to be, I mean, it's different back obviously when Bitcoin started and every node was a miner. And you could be doing that on your regular computer, your regular laptop, but verifying your transaction, like being your own bank, cut out all the third parties. Like this is about being your own bank and having no third parties. That's what peer-to-peer is supposed to mean. But if you're having to rely on someone else's full node, then are you really doing that? I'd argue no. Not everyone has the financial ability or maybe internet capability or whatever reason they might not be able to. But like if you have the capability and you're just not doing it just because it's convenient, just everyone needs to understand that, like, if you have a Bitcoin wallet and like a mobile wallet, light wallet, whatever, and you're not running it, it's not backed by your own Bitcoin node, you are essentially just relying on someone else, and someone else has all your transaction information. Someone else has all of your addresses or xpubs or whatever. So if you really care about your privacy just as a whole, you shouldn't be having, you shouldn't be relying on someone else's node. So that was like, the more I dug into that stuff and the more I learned, I was like, I got Dojo going, and then I realized why it was so important. And then, that's just kind of started my path towards the whole full node movement. And that's why it's exciting to see all these node projects pop up, because it shows how much the community actually appreciates running your own full node and having your wallets backed by it. So it's definitely very cool.
Yeah, and it's really laziness if you I mean, I guess there really are some people out there that just, no matter how hard they try, would not be able to grasp what they need to grasp in order to run their own full node. But I I feel like that's such a small number who can actually legitimately claim that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all it takes is time. Like you have to put the time in and you have to learn. That's the big thing that I feel, you know, when you talk about stuff being lost, as far as like, you know, people losing the plot, it's like, you know, this wasn't Bitcoin was never intended to be like this click and play type thing.
Nope.
And I feel like that has taken a back seat to, you know, majority of the conversation out there is like, well, how do we make it more click friendly? And, you know, it's all about adoption, and we're never going to get adoption if people can't just open something and push a button and it happens. And it's like, that's not the point of what's happening here. The point of
Yeah.
what's happening here is personal responsibility and being sovereign. And you're not, that's like claiming sovereignty because you buy organic vegetables, but you still buy them at the same fucking store that everybody else goes to. So there's nothing sovereign about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the ethos get lost because so many people are willing to give up anything to see their Bitcoin bags get pumped. They're so, you know, they're hopped up on so much hopium of the number going to $100 billion, you know, and they're all going to be in these citadels and whatever else, that they, you know, you lose it. You lose the whole point of why we're here. You lose the whole point of what the white paper says. Like, if you're going to be a Bitcoiner and you've been in for a little bit of time, you should be reading the white paper. You should have at least like read like the extract. I'm not saying you have to go read every piece of the, you know, the white paper and understand it. Like that's not like a reasonable expectation, but like you should understand the purpose. Like that's pretty clear what the purpose of Bitcoin, the intent of Bitcoin was. And if people just really like start to understand that and start to like, you know, it's like, oh, you want things super easy, right? But when something breaks and you don't know how to troubleshoot it, there's no point in knowing how to do it, like how to like run a full node. But if you don't know how to like fix it, so what are you going to do when it breaks? Help me. Okay, well, like, do you know how to do anything? No. Okay, so you didn't know how to learn how to do anything. You just pressed one button and installed 4,000 apps, and your node broke. You know, your Raspberry, you know, your RPi 4 broke. So now what are you going to do? You know, and it's, you know, that's why like learning that terminal stuff that we talked about is like, it's so important because you took the time to learn something. You took the time to like be able to fix something, you know, learn how to fix your stuff yourself, because that's part of being sovereign. Part of being sovereign is not, you know, just because I supply you the code and my goal is to make it easy on you, doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to be sovereign in how to fix your own stuff. You know, like you shouldn't have to ask the same question twice, you know, like you should be like, oh, okay, that's how I check that. Got it. That's how I fix that. Cool. I got it now. And it's not saying a knock on people that ask multiple times, but like that should be your goal because that makes you a sovereign individual. And that's what this is all supposed to be about, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's I mean, the biggest piece of experience of mine that I try to relay to other people when they ask me about like getting into Linux is like, just do yourself the favor and don't, from day one, don't start copy and pasting. It's as simple as like, look at what you have to copy and paste and type it out yourself, because things
Yeah.
like that will like make it stick in your head. Like you, because like you said, if you get to something that needs to be fixed and all you've ever done is copy and paste, well, what the fuck are you going to do now?
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of like code in general. It was funny. I was learning um, Python, and a good friend of mine gave me like it's like a digital book on how to do Python or whatever. And one of the in like the intro and one of the rules, it's like you are not allowed to copy and paste any code that is on here. Like in the practice scripts, it's like you will type out every single thing. But the other good piece to that like they don't really say, but something that I've started to like do as I've been doing a lot more commits and doing a lot more code recently, is like I'm saying to myself what that code is doing, right? Like you could say out loud, like, okay, you know, if this file is present at this location, right, then do this, whatever. Like that logic, like if you're saying it out loud and you're knowing what each syntax piece means, like whatever symbol it is that you got to do, it's going to click in your brain. And that's really code, is understanding, you know, the syntax required and the logic that's required to make the code do whatever that is that you want it to do. And like once you understand how to make those connect, make those things work together, your life is just so much easier, and code just starts flying out of your head. And yeah, so it really does, like typing out code, super huge, because it wasn't until I started to do that that I like actually understood what the fuck I was typing out or copy and pasting before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I mean, I think I've said it on here a couple of times, but probably the best thing that I ever heard that made me like really want to strive for that sovereignty as far as OS, anything really digital, right? Was that guy that took his time to teach me, said to me right when I first started getting into it, he said to me, if your machine isn't doing exactly what you tell it to do and nothing else, you don't own that machine. Whoever controls it or that box owns you.
Yep.
And I was like, now I have to know. Like now I have to learn, because you're absolutely fucking right. You know, I talked about it in, I don't know where the hell I talked about it with somebody, but there was a Joe Rogan stand up where he was like, you know, we're fucked if all the smart people die. Like, how do you know how a cell phone works? Because I don't know how a cell phone works.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but it's absolutely true. Like all the shit in your life that you don't know how it works, like you should strive in life to figure out how the things you interact with work.
Yeah. What's the saying? A jack of all trade is better than a master of one, and a master of one, or jack of all trades better than master of one. Fuck, I forgot the rest of it. But like, it's better to learn all that stuff, right? It's better than just, trying to rely on somebody else, right? And I will say, I'll counter a little bit of that point, just to a little bit of an extent, right? Because I think that everyone should strive to understand the code and things that are being ran on whether it's their computer or whatever else, right? But like, and that kind of comes down to like you understanding code, and you can go review code that you're installing, right? It's kind of what makes like FOSS important. You could always fork off whatever FOSS like projects that you want and then install it yourself. But I think that there's always some level of trust that's required somewhere, right? Like I don't think and everyone's code is going to be slightly different too, like the way like I write some sort of function might be different than the way you might write the function, and maybe it does the same thing or close to the same thing. And but most people aren't going to look at seeing what it's doing. But if someone buys like a full node and they don't run all of the individual script, like if they just buy like a single board computer and they don't install every single piece of like manually install everything and manually like get everything going, does that make it less theirs? I don't think so, because technically once they download the free open source software, they technically own the code that they're running, but they didn't write it. So I think there's like an in-between there, like you should understand what's happening to your computer, and you'd be able to check to make sure that there's nothing extra running on the computer that that you installed stuff on. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's an in-between. I'll fight you on it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I try to pick I try to look at that as like, I always, no matter what I'm doing in life in general, right? Whether it's that or building a shed or whatever example you can think of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always try to have the best of the best scenarios to aim for, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
always try to have that, like, oh, you could call it the unattainable goal, right? I have that
Yeah.
unattainable goal that I have set out, but that unattainable goal's function is to show me how far I still have left to go, right? It kind of,
Yeah.
it like indirectly humbles you, right? It reminds you that like there's so much further that I can go, but here's where I'm at today, so I can work at, getting to closer to the ultimate goal. Will you ever get there? I mean, unless you're going to be a full-time dev, probably not. But,
I
it's
mean,
probably a good idea to have enough knowledge to be able to like download a file, download the SHA-256 sum, and like make sure that it's what it's supposed to be.
yeah, absolutely. That for sure. And yeah, like you definitely should be. I think you're right on point. Like everyone should strive, and it absolutely humbles you. And like I said, no matter how good of a dev you are, like you are not a master of every single language. No one will be ever can prove. Someone needs to prove me wrong that there is someone who is a master of every single programming language, and that can just read flip every single any code anywhere anytime and just be able to like fluently understand what's going on in the context as being that it was written. Like that's unrealistic. Like I don't think that person exists, which is good because, like you said, it humbles every person and it makes every person strive for more, right? And it's kind of like what you said. Kind of reminds me of that cheesy Matthew McConaughey. What like Oscar or whatever that he won, where it's like my hero is me 10 years from now. I'm never gonna beat my hero. It's me in 10 years. And then it just gives you someone to chase, which I kind of liked what he was getting at. But yeah, I mean, like Bitcoin, software, everything, it's all a humbling experience. Like I constantly always learn something new from somebody. Like Max Stanhill is like always like 15 steps ahead of where my head's at. And so I love like having him to like pick his brain or, any of those guys are just like, they're always thinking ahead, always using all the different software. They have a good grasp on what's going on. And I love that about it. So it's all about staying humble, learning.
Yeah. There was one guy who knew it all, but Terry died. So
Hal Finney was one. No, I'm just kidding. Respect. RIP.
people can say what they want about Terry Davis, but let me tell you, if you can come up with a whole programming language on your own, you're fucking doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's intense. Good for them. Good for him. That's fucking too much. But yeah. Yeah, and that's I like always try. Like I want to learn. I'm like always kind of upset that I always have like work that code that I'm trying to write in like one language, or two languages maybe, and I'm like, man, I really want to like get really good at JavaScript, or I really want to get really good at Java, or you know master this one over here, whatever, Rust or something. And so I'll start, but I'm like, shit, I have so much other work and I can't come back, like, priorities come up and it's like, man, um, you really want to, I love trying to strive for more, but one day I'll get it. One day I'll just, go off the net for a little bit and try to figure out some new languages to implement. But yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing with I'm still in the middle of learning Bash, and I was like, yo, Lisp is really cool. Let me learn some of that. And then I was like, okay, this is too much. Shit's confusing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It gets complicated. A lot of that shit gets super complicated. And sometimes I'll look at code and I'm like, nope, this is not the language I want to learn right now. But the nice thing though with like programming in general is just like you can watch YouTube videos or have like free online academies for almost any language that you want. There is some code. There is somebody that published a GitHub somewhere that is like, this is how you learn X language, and it's out there for you. Like if you're hungry and you want to learn, like that shit's free and it's there. So like dig in and go figure it out.
And there's so many. I mean, my experiences, and a lot of people will say different, but my experience is anybody who's really involved and believes in like the FOSS ethos is more than happy to like answer a question or point you in a direction of somebody who can.
1000%. It's such a different ball game from people who are truly false and people who aren't remotely false at all. Like I'll say the one in between, and this is because I got to know them, was the Start 9 guys,
Yeah.
because I got to know them and like we had that whole debate. Like you even said, like we want to open up our code. We just want to get to a point and we'll start to like slowly undo our stuff or whatever. And like, they're in a different realm in my opinion, because they have, sovereign apps and whatever, and that's kind of their thing. And whatever, at least you could explain it. And so I respected that. And like we reach out, we help each other. Like if I have questions, he helps me. If he has questions, I help him. And so like he has the right ethos. But like you can see such a difference, and like we could just start shit talking now because this is the fun part,
Yeah,
right?
fuck yeah.
You can see a difference, and like we'll use Rest by Blitz and Ronin for example, right? Like those guys have like helped us, and I mean like they don't really need help with from us too much because they don't use Dojo or Whirlpool or like any of the same shit that we do. But there's always back and forth, or like if there's somebody talking shit on Twitter, like we have their back and they have our back, which is awesome. Like we're always there to help each other if there's something that comes up or tour issue or whatever. Like we're gonna help each other out, and versus like crickets from Umbrella or the whole cold card thing versus foundation, and like it's so blatant. It's so blatant when like companies that started out FOSS and they, uh, you know, and then they get to a certain point and then they get scared because someone forked their stuff, and it's like so obvious that you are not confident enough in your own model
Yes.
that someone takes your stuff, and because you were FOSS, which is your decision and ethos, someone took it and then you're too scared to fight. You're too scared to stand up and go for it. And it just shows that like, you don't like to me, if I was a customer, it shows me that you're not confident enough in what you have that you're going to win the market. That's really what it comes down to. I don't care about marketing. I don't care about any other shit. Like that's bullshit. This is Bitcoin. It's existed for this long and has not had any true marketing. Like there's no marketing firm for Bitcoin. There's no, there's no one who's running some Bitcoin like marketing firm for free and doing all this stuff like that. It doesn't exist. If Bitcoin can do it, why the hell does it matter if someone is, has more money for marketing or whatever? It doesn't fucking matter. It's bullshit. It's just a bullshit excuse. And when you just see that difference, right?
Wait,
Because
is that NVK's excuse?
I mean, like that's every excuse I've heard from
Oh,
him.
okay. I was gonna say, good.
I,
Come
I'm
on.
sure. I'm sure he said that at some point. I just stopped caring. But I mean, I got blocked like 2 years ago. So the the thing that gets me is like people who are truly FOSS, right? And I think NVK showed his cards way earlier when he forked off Trezor, like their code, and then he changed the code, like he just copied the code and took out their, took out their MIT stuff. And like that to me just shows like you are not willing to acknowledge that you stand on the shoulders of giants, right? That is what FOSS is about. It's acknowledging that you are not you might have the code right now and it might be your repo and you're running in your own direction, but you stand on the shoulders of giants. Like you would not be where you're at without other people putting in the legwork before you. That is the difference. That's where true FOSS people separate themselves from, people who are LARPing and just lying to everybody. They're lying to themselves, they're lying to everybody else. Open source, quote unquote, open source is not FOSS, like at all. That's a
Source
bullshit.
available. It's the same thing, Zelko.
I fucking hate when I see source when I see open source, or if they say, oh, it's free and it's open source. Go to our GitHub. That fucking that is the most belligerent, like disrespectful and just like you're just lying, disingenuous thing that you could put on there. That is the biggest bullshit that I've ever fucking seen. And it's a disgrace to like the entire Bitcoin community and the entire FOSS community. That is just such horseshit. That's the thing that just triggers me the most. I don't give a fuck if anybody wants to be like not open source, like not FOSS, whatever. Do your thing. I don't care. You're not going to make it, in my opinion. But if you are sitting there lying to the Bitcoin community, especially talking about Bitcoin, you're lying to the Bitcoin community about being false, you can go fuck yourself. Like 100%.
Yeah, especially if you're like, and your avenue of lying about it is arguing the definition of false.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's one clear definition of false.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, I think the bare minimum, while we're on one of my favorite people, NVK, I think the bare minimum, if you're a customer and you see actions like, changing your licensing, the minimum you should know that there's really nothing innovative coming down the line. Like you can look forward to years of exactly what you already have.
Yeah.
Because if he believed he was going to innovate, if he believed he was going to innovate and build a better product, then why would you worry about somebody forking your code?
Yeah. And that's the best part. Like I've said this on like every talk that I've done on this is like, I wish someone would fork my code and do something cool with it, because then I'll take it and I'll put it back into my code. That's less work for me. It's cool. Like do it because number one, like no two people are like, and it's clear, right? When you look at Foundation versus Cold Card, they have two totally different visions of hardware wallets, completely different, right? Their code is similar, right? I mean, like at least at a base level, and that's cool. Whatever. Like Foundation's never been like, oh, we wrote the code all ourselves. No, they are like 100% open and transparent about what they did, which is fork off just like any other normal group would do. But like when you start like making excuses about closing your shit, and it's such bullshit. And like you could easily go back and forth. Like if someone made Ronin Blitz and they just started doing their own thing and they did something awesome, I'm like, cool, bro. Like I'm going to take it back and I'm going to take it down my vision, down my path, because we're never going to have the two same visions. Never. It's not going to be the same. And I'm going to do it better because I'm better than you and I know it. And I'm going to prove it. Like if you don't have that mindset, you're not going to make it in the false community. Like you see it. Like Samurai is a great example, right? Like they're like, yeah, you get like anybody can run a coordinator. Right? Anybody can run their own pools and do their own thing. You can do it. You can make your own whirlpool, mixing service. It's free and open source. Fork it and take it. Doesn't happen, right? But if they did, go for it. Cool. Like they've never once been like, oh, you can't take that. And it's like, well, they use Whirlpool to get fees. And it's like, yep, yeah, they do, because they're providing a service, one, and two, like that's how they can maintain themselves without having to go to VC funds or simp to the fucking whatever grants that are going to be put out there. Like they don't have to simp to anybody. They don't have to bend the knee to anybody because they have their own revenue coming in. But challenge, I like why, like everyone wants to talk shit on Twitter, but no one wants to challenge them and just fork their code and do something different. You want to bitch about Samurai Wallet having the, what's called like being backed by like their server, right? For default wallets, like it's not default dojo and whatever. And it's like, okay, you want to bitch and complain about it. You've not complained about any of the actual like features in the wallet, not complained about anything negative. Like no one ever talks about the actual protocol of Whirlpool. The only thing they do is go, oh, I don't trust them. I'm like, they're mean. Or, oh, well, like they backed by their own server. I'm like, yeah, because most people trust the fucking wallet that they're using. If you didn't trust the developers, don't use the wallet. Like it's that simple. Like if I don't trust, I don't know, like if I don't trust Sparrow, well, if I don't trust Craig, I'm not going to run Sparrow. Like it's pretty fucking simple, right? Like very plain. Or I could fork it and do it myself. But like all these people complain, make all this stink. Everyone's complaining about the features. What they do complain about is, is what Samurai did. I'm like, well, they made a decision. So you fucking like it or you don't use it. They
You
made
can
a
just
decision.
put a furry friend finder on there, and then they'd probably stop bitching.
Oh my god. No comment on furry. I mean, not furry. What's this? He has a real name. Damn you. Oh god, I fucking hate that. All right, you're gonna get me triggered.
No, but that's what it is. You're right. I mean, if you don't have anything to bitch about the actual text, so you take shots at other shit. Oh, they're so mean. This is why I don't give a fuck what anybody says, right? Because listen,
If that's a reason you're going to talk shit, or you're going to talk shit about something, like here's how I knew, right? I knew that it wasn't about, and this is like, people ask about the privacy wars, and I was like, it's not a war. It's not a war. It's just it's an attack campaign, right? And you have Samurai Wild team and developers or whatever that just don't take shit from people. Like, they're not going to sit there and let you like talk shit on their team, on their project, on what they do, and that's why they talk shit back. But if you look at the actual stuff that they say, that like they don't make claims without providing information and proof. And then on the same side, like they, you just keep hearing all these attacks, but it's just changes goalposts every time. Like first it was, oh well, like they have default dojo wallet, they can't do mobile mixing, despite the fact that it's going to help all these other users with on-chain privacy. They can't do that because it defaults to Samurai Wallet, and then they can de-anonymize all these people. I'm like, okay, one, that like there's nothing that links your wallet to your identity. There's no KYC, there's no information, okay, and it's default through Tor. So I don't know where that came from, because they had default Tor before Whirlpool was mobile. So okay, I guess we got to change. Now they have mobile mixing going. We have to change the goalpost. Oh well, they need dojo only pools, and it's like, so you need to have dojo only pools in order to obtain better privacy. And like that didn't even make sense, because even if you were worrying about that, you remix twice, and like that number is gone, because the number of dojo users is greater than like 80, 70 or 80%. And so your mix, like mathematically, is disappeared from their server. So there's that. And then, so that wasn't enough, right? They kept writing that, and like, well, until it has dojo only pools, it's not enough. And then Sparrow joins the party. Now it's even less linkability. There's even more people mixing, and there's even less like opportunity for anybody to bitch and complain. And they're whatever it is, it's never going to be enough. And that's what I love about Samurai, is that through all the FUD, through all this bullshit and moving goalposts, their vision was their vision. And they never once went, okay, we'll fix that one thing so everyone will like us. It's like, well, if you don't fucking like it, don't use it. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is our shit. This is our wallet. Like, we're going to do what we think is best because it's our shit. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. We're providing the best, like, most cutting edge privacy tools, on-chain wallet, on the on-chain, Bitcoin features, first one to get SegWit, all that shit. Like, you don't want to use it, don't use it. And that's their mindset. And that to me is inspiring. Like, 7 years of just doing what the fuck they want, not bending the knee to all these other people, is like top tier shit. Like, if that's not what you want in your privacy wallet, like, provider, then like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so two things. As far as like the FUD shit, I saw two ends of a ridiculous argument happen in the same thread the other day, where somebody bitched about the fees on Whirlpool, and then 3 comments later they were like, well, if it's free, then you're the product, because they were talking about remixes. And I'm like, where are the mental gymnastics that it takes to get there? And just a couple of comments,
like a couple comments later, it's because it's not mental gymnastics, it's just lying. Like, it's just disingenuous FUD, and it's like, bro, like, and that's why, like, I used to just stop disengaging. Like, I used to stop engaging in all that stuff, and I just recently caught up in it by accident. And my God, like, I forgot how like dishonest people are, because it really is not, like, it's just not real. And when you see like what you just said, because it happens all the time, if you go back and look at any of these like gigantic fight threads, it's just mental gymnastics over and over and back and forth, and like contradicting themselves like 14 times. And I'm like, dude, I'm talking to a fucking wall. Like, there is people who, and then they want to say like, oh, you're paid by Samurai. I'm like, I wish I was being paid by Samurai, because then I'd be making way more fucking money, but I'm not. Here wasting my time talking to a fucking brick wall, like, my God, like you just are dumb, but you did it in hopes that someone else reads it and they're like, wow, this guy's stupid. And Zelko sounds at least somewhat intelligent. Because I'm definitely not smart, but like somewhat intelligent, I'll take.
I have to say too, like I would argue the biggest piece of FUD around Samurai is that they're assholes.
That's not fun.
That's fun. I'm telling you, that's fun. I'm telling my experiences, that is fun. I have interacted with a good amount of that community. People like you and like Woe who are involved with Dojo, and I've never had anybody be anything but nice to me because I don't come in like a dickhead. If you come in like a dickhead, you're gonna get a dickhead response. But if you come
Exactly.
in and you ask a question in good conscience because you want to know,
Mm-hmm.
I
1000%.
guarantee you will be returned the same kindness. If you come and ask a genuine question, they're not going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't happen at all. Ever.
And it's just painted that way, and it pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah, well, I mean, it. So like when I say it's not fun, I mean it's I love Samurai Guys. Intern is one of my favorite people, but the reason I say it's not fun is because they're assholes in the sense that like they're not going to be nice for just to appease you. Like now, if you are coming in, especially in Telegram, is like the best, most like friendly environment. But if you're there, you're like you said, open, asking questions, just taking in feedback. Like and when your question gets answered, you're like, oh, okay, I got it. Instead of like trying to push your agenda on somebody. But like for the most part, they're not gonna be assholes, but they're assholes in the sense that like they're not gonna back down. Like they got the like BDE. Like they're not gonna sit there and let anybody, especially on Twitter, like push them around or or try to get them to bend the knee and go to the will of someone else. They're not gonna do that, and some people think they're assholes for that. So could
There's spooks, haven't you heard?
It's like, oh, you're on the official, you're on the official product like Twitter. Like this isn't very professional. It's like, go fuck yourself. Like to me, that is fucking hilarious when he says shit like that, and you're just like, yeah, like this is exactly who I want to be developing my privacy, my privacy wallet. I want someone who's going to be a fucking asshole to people who are going to flood them. Like, fuck them. I don't know.
I go through the same shit with this podcast. I made the grave error of inviting Laser Huddle on this podcast. And yeah, it was, and then I did my research and I didn't like what I saw, so I memed the life out of him and I uninvited him. And some people were like, oh, I really wanted to hear him. I'm like, fucking start your own podcast. I don't give a fuck. I have no sponsors. Like, I'm not, nobody fucking tells me what to do with this. I do it when I fucking feel like doing it. And I talk to only the people that I want to talk to. And if you don't fucking like it, start your own fucking podcast. I did it and I'm half retarded.
You're like, goddamn right. Like that's what I love, when that's the intent, like the energy is so much better, like that's what I was saying, like with Max bit by bit. And it's like so fun because like he's just like, yeah, like I just want to talk to people I want to talk to and like learn, like people I want to learn from, like I have them on so I can learn. And I'm like, dude, that's like that's awesome, and like, and you're doing it and now other people get it. Like that's the way it should be, and yeah, I think that was a good move. Like Laser, I don't know, man, that guy's
we don't have time for that.
That's a whole nother thing. It's just I'm like sometimes I just scratch my head and I'm like I don't even know, like, but that's not getting that. We'll be here all day. But
yeah, exactly. We got like 10 minutes left, so to kind of wrap it up in the 10 minutes, why don't you take us through like the benefits privacy wise as far as running your own node, why you feel, besides the fact that it's your project, that Ronin Dojo is the best option for that, and kind of what you guys offer, that really can't be found somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah. So in general, right, like the baseline reason you want to run a full node is to gain baseline privacy, right? Like your wallet's extended public key that has all the addresses that will ever be, utilized. If you're not running your own node, it's with someone else, and your privacy's, subject to them, right? You expose yourself to them. Um, and so, like, to me, that's like baseline. Like, you should be running your own node. And then, when it comes to Ronin Dojo, the I'm glad to see a lot of people are using Tor and doing that kind of stuff to communicate their wallet. But really, what separates us is our extreme dedication and focus to on-chain solutions and the best privacy practices on-chain, right? So, utilizing Whirlpool, having those mixes running 24/7, getting those free remixes, and then you know we're about to be releasing a new web interface here in hopefully a couple days, maybe a week. I don't know when this is going to come out, but um, so we're developing a lot of good stuff to help onboard and help get that in between, and while still maintaining really strong privacy and security features, right? So our the Tontos that are coming out, people that ordered those, they're starting to get shipped right now, and they're gonna get one of the best features is that, like, it all installs on its own, but you get a the password that you're getting. We don't know what it is. It's not hard set, but what it is randomized extent, like a long password that is completely randomized that we'll never know and no one else will know but you. The moment that you sign into the UI, you get to actually have the opportunity to either copy it down like you would a Bitcoin seed, or you can change your password. To me, that's like one of the best user experiences that I've seen or had on a full node, like plug and play option. Um, and so, like I said, with us being so focused on chain, and we don't have to worry, like, there's so much development and people trying to make new stuff on Lightning, um, which I still don't think is there yet. Like, there's some cool stuff that is being in the works, but um, I still don't think we're at like mainnet. Like, I need to drop everything to go on layer two. Like, I don't think we have that need yet. And so, we'll see where it goes in the future. But I think that with what our focus is, we're able to develop and put in the best product in the best places. Utilize BISC, have easy BISC connection. We have the latest mempool, which most people have. We're working on implementing Fulcrum, that new indexer that well, it's not new, but newly found by Craig Raw. And supposed to be super, like, blazing fast. And so we're implementing that, working on a bunch of options for people to choose and use what they want on their hardware. So with that, because we're so focused, we're able to have the most stable Dojo implementation. So if you're using Samurai Wallet, like, you are getting the most stable Samurai experience. Like, I've had people who've had uptimes of 200 plus days with nothing dropping, and, like, I've yet to hear that about anybody else on my node or Umbro, and it's a lot of that's because we are Samurai Wallet, like, community first and foremost, and we know how that shit works inside and out. And yeah, so we're able to, like, do the right stuff and build it Dojo first and utilize that power server that Dojo really is, because it really is a power server. So yeah, that's why my unbiased, very biased opinion of why Ronin Dojo is the best option for on-chain privacy. Like I said, you're really getting a hyper-focused project that's not going to stray from what you need, because most people realistically are either trying to get into privacy or they're just trying to use their hardware wallet. Either way, we got you covered.
Nice. Well,
Yep.
Zelko, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you, coming out and taking some time to break some shit down for people like me.
Hell yeah, it was fun. I like the conversation we had and the wild path that we ended up on. Having some fun shit talking, that's always good. I had a great time, man. It was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man. Well, enjoy your Friday night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Oh yeah, and fuck wasabi.
Hey.